So I have the great privilege and honor to be with Axe today. A fine gentleman who I think the world really needs to hear your voice, my friend. How are you?
Hi, Sai. I'm very good all the way over in Singapore here, where it's 8:30 in the morning. Yeah, great to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you for making the time, Axe. I would love for you to kind of introduce yourself a little bit and tell us about who you are and what you do, and then we can dive in deeper.
Sure, Sai. So I'm a team decision-making coach and human-powered explorer. I'm originally from New Zealand, where I was born and bred, but I moved to Singapore when I was 21 years old, and I've been living here for the last 20 years. I run my own consultancy now, where I work with teams who are specifically working in very VUCA environments, environments where things are rapidly changing, where there's a lot of uncertainty. It's very complex. And I specifically use my environments as the metaphors to drive my learning. And I help teams specifically through the lens of looking at the way they make decisions and how they can improve and make more effective decisions together in these complex environments.
Excellent. It's fantastic. A fantastic just overall picture to describe and really put things into context. And of course, that some of the narrative we've been talking about, and the themes and the world and the things that we're experiencing. And two particular things that drove me to find you, very honestly, is one is your perspective on resilience and anti-fragility, and then two, how we deal with uncertainty. So I'd love for you to kind of share your overall perspective of how you help teams make those decisions and advance in those kinds of environments.
Well, sure. So I guess I should take a little step backwards, first of all. Specifically for me, for 20 years of human-powered exploration, where I've made these journeys all around the planet on many different continents, I specifically look for environments which are extremely VUCA. And, for me, there is no such thing as having an adventure without uncertainty. Uncertainty is one of the key ingredients to having adventure. If you don't have uncertainty, then you don't have an adventure. So here's a distinction, for example, Sai, between adventure tourism, where you go bungee jumping, or where there is a high perceived there's a high perception of risk or danger or uncertainty, but actually in reality there is none. The risk is minimized till it's almost non-existent. That is not real adventure. That is packaged tourism adventure. I specifically look for expeditions which have massive amounts of uncertainty in them, because that's one of the key ingredients. And there's always three specific questions on the expeditions that I go on that are very uncertain from the start. The first question is, will I even make it? Okay, even make it across. Say I'm leaving to cross an ocean or a sea in my rowing boat, for example. I think it might take 2 or 3 months. I never know if I'm going to make it. The second question is, if I do make it, where am I going to end up? I never know exactly where the destination is going to be. It's far beyond my control. I can work towards it, but if I get there or not is far beyond my control. And the third thing is, if I do make it across, actually, what state am I going to be at the end? Okay. Now, these three things are the key ingredients to the adventures that I go on, and that I think they're enormously relevant to the situation that the entire world is thrust into at this particular time. Whether you like having adventure or not, whether you thought this is a good idea, you are thrust into this situation at the moment. And many businesses, many teams, many leaders are asking themselves these three questions. Are we going to make it through this? If we do, how long is it going to take? And what position are we going to end up at the other time? So to tie this back into your question, what you asked me before, Sai, is that I come from a position of being in this environment for the last 20 years. And the really important thing, the first piece of advice I'm going to give out here today, is that there is so much advice being given around in the world at this particular time. A lot of it's well-intentioned. A lot of it is coming from organizations or people who have never been in a massive state of uncertainty in their lives. They've read a book, they've taken a course about it, and then they're going out and telling people how to do this. So the first really important thing is that we have to be extremely careful during this time who we're taking advice from. I call it putting your advice filter on. You know, lots of well-intentioned advice, but, you know, the most expensive advice in the world is normally free advice. So be very careful where you take advice from. So I really work with teams to apply what has actually worked with me in these volatile, uncertain, complex environments, and what has gone wrong, and how we can take these learnings and apply them to the current situation where there's massive parallels.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. So really, if we're going to take advice, we should, from someone, if you will, very openly, we should ask kind of what adventure have they been on, and why is it that they are positioned to even offer that advice, which I think is very crucial, especially given today's current conditions and everybody's offering advice.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, you maybe don't need to ask them face to face. This is not something that needs to be offensive, but it's more a question to ask yourself as well, Si. Is their experience relevant to you? You know, is their experience relevant to your industry? It may not be relevant to your industry whatsoever. So the relevance, take on the advice, listen. It's very important to keep an open mind and be aware and listen to the information that's out there, but just be aware and ask yourself that question, is it relevant?
Well said. Very well said. So Axe, I would love for you to kind of really share with us as to how you distinguish between resilience and anti-fragility. What are the characteristics that, if you observe something, you can demonstrably say, that is really a key characteristic of more being approaching anti-fragility versus resilience. Any thoughts there?
Sure, Si. So if it's okay, I'd like to share this through a story, from my own personal story. So, out of over 20 years of ongoing on human-powered expeditions around the world, I haven't always been a human-powered explorer. In fact, I love playing rugby, and I went through a brief period of my life where I got into the boxing ring, and I had 4 boxing fights. In my last fight, went for 3 rounds. In my last fight, I got hit in the nose very hard in the first round. And, my nose erupted like a volcano. It was just blood everywhere. And, for the rest of that fight, I just clung on. I was just clinging on until I got to the final bell of each round. When I finished that last fight, okay, I lost the fight, okay, but I was still standing. I never fought again. That was the end of my boxing career, but I was still standing and I got through the fight. I was proud of myself for getting through the fight because, being punched in the face really, really hard in front of, 700 people who are screaming for you, to be knocked out, is quite an intimidating environment, okay? But resilience got me through that fight. It got me to the end. I didn't win, but it was resilience, and I've never fought again. Now, let's change to a different area of my life, human-powered exploration, where I've been trying to cross a sea called the Tasman Sea between Australia and New Zealand. I've made 3 attempts at crossing the Tasman Sea in the last 3 years. The first attempt took me 24 days out at sea, 2,400 kilometers. I got capsized, my boat got smashed in massive storms, and I was pushed in this massive circle by these currents, adverse currents, everything beyond my control. I ended up getting washed back into the coast of Australia, further from New Zealand than where I even started. But as soon as I got back, I thought, wow, what an experience that was. That was unreal. What can I take and learn from that and get out there again? I got on my bike, I cycled 1,300 kilometers to a different launch point. I got in my boat, I set off again. Okay, 6 days later, I got smashed in another storm. Okay, I had to return back. That was my second attempt in the space of 6 months now. When I got back into shore, I didn't think, oh, I'm never doing that again. I thought, what can I learn from this and get out there and go and do it again? This is an amazing experience. So I went out there for a 3rd attempt. And again, I got smashed in a storm. I had tweaked things, I adjusted things, I strengthened the boat. Again, it didn't work. I came back into shore and I thought, man, I've got so much gold experience. It's just invaluable at this time. What can I learn from this to go out there and make it even stronger? Now I'm building a brand new boat, which is completely designed for these Tasman Sea conditions, and I can't wait to get out there and apply all my knowledge and be even stronger for a 4th attempt. Now, this is the difference between an anti-fragile mindset, my attempts at rowing across that sea or crossing it by human power, and a resilient mindset, which is in the boxing ring, taking the punches, being battered around the ring, okay, staggering through it and just coming out the other side, proud that you made it, but, never fighting again. So
Very
I hope
beautiful.
that story illustrates from a personal perspective the difference and the power, especially between just being resilient, just getting through that fight, and being anti-fragile, getting back out there and getting stronger and stronger and stronger with each attempt.
Beautiful, beautiful, most definitively. And Axe, as you kind of look around the world, especially in the current conditions that we find ourselves, are you finding people kind of leaning into a more anti-fragile mindset?
Well, in my part of the world, anti-fragility is something which very few people are aware of the concept. I mean, look, anti-fragility is something which has been given a name relatively recently. But, I've been anti-fragile and human-powered exploration for much longer than there ever was a name for it. It's just wonderful now that, Nassim Taleb has given it a name. But it's been around. The world's most powerful humans are anti-fragile. The Okinawans, the world's longest living people are highly anti-fragile. This is a concept which has been observed. It's not something which has been invented or created suddenly within the last 10 or 15 years. So in this part of the world, the term anti-fragile is not well known. Is it something which is important? It is so critical at this time. People have got to stop thinking about themselves and their teams and their businesses as the boxers in the ring who are getting punched in the face and just trying to get through to the other end. They've got to start thinking in this mindset of how can we get stronger? How can we learn from this? If that means cutting costs, if that means changing your whole business model, so be it. But how can you come out even stronger, not just trying to be resilient?
Beautiful, beautiful. And I truly appreciate what you're saying, because truly the concept predates the label. And that's very, very crucial in terms of what we've seen historically and what we're experiencing today. So I truly, truly appreciate that. Axe, any other sort of words that you'd like to kind of share with us today? And definitely this will be heard by numerous people around the world. So anything else to share with us?
Yeah, I mean, I specifically work with teams in around the space of decision making. So at this particular time, decision making is absolutely critical. So, the general kind of insights that I share that I've learned the hard way about decision making, especially in uncertain environments. The first one was I already shared with you about being very careful about who you choose advice from. The second one is this is not about predicting the future. Don't put too much pressure on yourself to try and predict the future, because I tell you what, anyone who can predict the future is not living on this particular planet at the moment.
Yeah.
Okay? So, but it's about preparing for the future. So take the pressure off yourself about trying to predict what's going to happen and just focus on trying to prepare for it. The second thing is. The third thing is really, there is such a complex situation that we're in at the moment. There's so many factors which are affecting the way we make decisions that it's really very difficult for hero leadership, for single people to be making decisions all by themselves. Even though the media absolutely glorifies a few leaders in the world, oh, they're wonderful, they've made these wonderful, they're not making decisions by themselves. It's just absolutely, it is just inaccurate portrayal of leadership at the moment. The best leaders are making decisions harnessing cognitive diversity. They're using teams who have team intelligence rather than great individual intelligence. So it's really important now to be making decisions harnessing the power of cognitive diversity. This means getting people with relevant experience. It doesn't just mean getting any diversity by itself is important, but getting people with relevant experience but diverse thinking styles into your problem solving and decision making. And the final one is, the final point is, and this is as old as the hills, okay, is that teams, leaders, businesses now more than ever need to think about alignment, alignment, alignment. They need to be aligned around their purpose, their values, and their strategy. Now, let's face it, a lot of businesses and a lot of people listening to this, if you're leaders, probably don't even know what your values are for your organization. If you do, maybe you do because they're plastered to the wall in the entrance to your office, but they're not being applied. During massive amounts of uncertainty, people need guidelines, they need North Stars, they don't need roadmaps. They don't need roadmaps telling them turn-by-turn directions, because you can't do that in an uncertain environment. Rather, you need to be guided by purpose, you need to be, your behaviors need to be guided by your values, and technically, you're guided by your strategy. So aligning around what I call your 3 critical decision alignment drivers is crucial. Apart from that, good luck.
Very well said. Very well said. Axe, thank you so much for making the time. Truly appreciate it, and truly appreciate all the sharing you have. And by all means, we look forward to hearing more about the great adventures you're planning on going on and experiencing.
Thanks very much, Si. It's been awesome to speak to you today, and well done on putting together such a fantastic event. It is so sorely needed at this time. Have a great day.
Thank you, Axe.